UBA Global Market then. I was the accountant, more like the finance person, and I stumbled on the CFA program and I said I was going to write the exam, and I recall people asking me, you're just a bean counter. You're a bookkeeper. You're an accountant. Why are you writing CFA? And I literally remember telling them it's perception. In the sense that if you see a child accountant who has a CFA and a child accountant without a CFA, there's a difference. So for me, it was that desire for learning, and I took the CFA program, completed it, and to a large extent, it pivoted me to where I am today. Now, still leaning on that, I spent 8 years writing the exam because I failed the exam multiple times. If you know the CFA exam, you know how tough it is. But people still pass it once. I wrote level 1 4 times, level 2 3 times, and then level 3 3 times. So failing, she talked about failing. A lot of the times as entrepreneur, you set up a business, you're struggling, you fail, and then you give up. We say, oh, maybe this is not what God wants for me. I can't remember ever making that statement. By the time I fail one, I will cry and cry and cry, and then I'll go back again the next time to go and still write the exam. But today, imagine if I had abandoned that exam on my first attempt and I failed. I probably will not be where I am today. So I'll say failure is not personal. Don't take it personal. Everybody, even at the top, at one point or the other, they have failed, whether you're running a business, in building a career, in taking an exam, So when you fail, see it as an opportunity to learn, and I learned this in a hard way. I hate to fail. Let me just put that. My first experience with failing was when I wrote ICANN. I started from ATS1 in university, and then I graduated and I wrote the last diet of ICANN, and I failed one paper and I cried. In short, I got so angry with myself and with God that I refused to write the exam. But what I did not realize was a lot of us that wrote the exam, my friends, they all failed. And the next diet, they went to write the exam. And me, I was there getting angry, by the time I went to write the exam, they had already qualified. And so I made up my mind, failure, you will never hold me back again. And so when the experience of CFA came, it was just by default, to always go back. So really, you are running a business, you will fail at some point in time. You will not hit your target. The business will struggle at some point in time. It's not a ticket to run away or to say it's not for you. But if you hang in there, to a large extent, you look back and realize that this was the best decision you ever made. Thank you.
Thank you very much.